New World's Season 10 update dropped the other day, giving us a brand new zone, brand new content, a revamped endgame progression system, and some new gear you'll want to get your hands on. While everything this update has to offer for the most part is a very refreshing change to New World, will it be enough to maintain the player base through the 100-day season as they wait for what's next? First thing I want to bring up in this review, in case people haven't heard, is New World's Rise of the Angry Earth expansion is no longer a barrier to entry for a lot of players. I saw a lot of comments on this in my overall 2025 review that it was holding a lot of people back, but Amazon announced that it is now included in their base game. So no more dropping an extra $30 to get that mount and the newer content. You now have all of that, and if you purchased the Angry Earth expansion in the last 30 days, they issued refunds yesterday for it. So a pretty solid win on Amazon's part, even if they just refunded me Steam credits at the same time that I log in to see some pretty cool store mounts that convinced me to give my money back to Amazon. Yeah. But now, if you own the base game, there's absolutely nothing stopping you from jumping in and checking out the Nighthaven update once you finish the Angry Earth storyline. And that's exactly what I did. Well, after I sat in queue for a while, but I'm not really gonna shit on the servers too much. People always complain about a queue and launch issues when an MMORPG does have a huge update. The fact that it still surprises people that these issues happen when it's something that just about every MMO suffers is just silly to me. You should kind of be expecting a queue and server issues on launch day of any MMO you play or any live service online game that you play. Does it suck when you only have a few hours a day to play? Sure. Should AGS open up some more servers? Probably. But they've done it before just to end up having to merge a month later, so I can see why they're hesitant on opening too many at once. This is just unfortunately kind of the norm when it comes for big launches within the genre. Very few seem to have figured out how to mitigate these issues at launch, but once you get through it, then you can actually jump into the content. And when jumping into the content, the first thing that I noticed was pretty disappointing. It seems New World's voice acting has taken a significant turn for the worse.
My plan was to take it somewhere safe. There's an archive in Nighthaven.
You've picked a bad time to visit. We're dealing with a rather urgent matter. With any luck, he's also got the shield up and...
To the point where it's kind of hard for me to tell, is this AI voice acting or just really bad voice work with new actors? I was surprised to see the amount of effort that they previously added into the story with New World Aeternum, and a lot of voice acting, a lot of cutscenes, a lot of more cinematic feel to the story, just to have the Nighthaven update really kind of downgrade the main story quests. As you progress through the MSQ, you will experience a lot of what was promised in this update. Underwater areas, new Arcana cards that will unlock elite chests, spider caves that dropped a insane amount of loot until they were nerfed, and much more. Most of which is laid out exactly as you would expect it. The only thing I was a little bit disappointed on was the underwater areas, because you still don't have control of your character moving up and down in the water, and it actually just swims you on a path through the underwater as you move into the next area, which, well, I guess I just wasn't what I was expecting, but, you know, for a game that didn't let you swim until last year, I guess I can't say I'm too surprised. The new area, though, looks amazing. New World continues to shine with its visual and sound design, and that doesn't change in the Nighthaven Zone. This more gothic feel is done very well in my opinion, but it still feels like you're in the same world while refreshing at the same time. My favorite area in this game, I feel like, is this sort of jumping puzzle pathway that you go through on part of the main story, and something I really wish I was able to do more in because I just thought the area was really cool. There are some issues though, specifically with interiors of buildings and dungeons. There are literal mazes that can be pretty frustrating to navigate at times. There's one point in the story where I ran by the exit probably 10 times because I had no indicator that there was even an exit and it just kind of blended in. There is a lot of maze-like caves and dungeons to explore, and you're probably gonna get lost a couple times. I also don't really understand the point of doors. Some doors open, some doors don't open and teleport you to the other side of them without it actually doing anything, and all doors require you to channel to go through them or open them instead of just pushing them open. Kinda silly to me. Overall though, the MSQ is pretty much what you'd expect. Do some exploring, talk to some NPCs, take on some Souls trials to fight the main protagonist of the story, and you'll be level 70 in no time. The Souls trials seem to have gotten an upgrade when it comes to the challenge too. The earlier main story trials I found myself cruising through, they were all insanely easy, but this time around, I think all but one of the trials I died several times on, and I had to figure out the best way to take on these bosses. This is partially probably due to the attribute changes, but overall, it felt good to have a solo challenge that actually felt like a challenge. And with these, one of my complaints in my original review was that the NPCs build you up for this grand fight in the main story, but these NPCs never actually show up and pretend they were with you the entire time. But this time around in the last soul trial, one actually does show up to participate. They don't really do much, but it adds a bit to the story and is a nice move in the right direction. Once I hit level 70 and finished the story, I kind of expected one of those fancy cinematics to wrap up the stories as we've had previously and tease me on what's to come next, but that didn't happen, and it's kinda sad to see that the MSQ has taken a hit in quality between the lack of cinematic feel to it and the voice acting compared to the rest of the game, but I guess most people are just trying to make it through to the endgame content anyways. Speaking of endgame, Nighthaven brings several additions to endgame. The first is the gear upgrading system called Umbral Crystals. Basically, this is a currency that you can get from doing mutated expeditions, PvP arenas, Outpost Rush, CTF, elite chest runs, and raids, and they all drop this currency, which caps at 4,000 per week. You can then click on an item and go over to upgrade and use this currency to bring your gear that is at least item level 700 all the way up to 800. You get 150 Umbral Crystals per CTF match, whether you win or lose, and with the 10-minute time limit cap to this game mode, you can have an item leveled up within less than an hour. So thankfully, Nighthaven offers several new gear sets and loot that you want to max out to get you coming back each week for a while, because I believe you can get like 5 items up to 800 item level per week, if I recall. Somewhere in that area. I don't really hate this system, but it does go a lot quicker than I expected, and I figured it would be much more of a time sink. But it is a great way to keep gear relevant and not feel like you're starting over with each major update like a lot of MMORPGs do. Then there is probably my favorite addition, which is the Catacombs. These are procedurally generated extraction dungeons that have you taking on up to 6 bosses within 30 minutes. These dungeons have a variety of named NPCs and trash mobs along with the bosses that you can farm and collect a Catacombs exclusive currency, I believe called soul gems or something like that, where you can upgrade your character as you progress because the fights do get more challenging. You don't get the best gear out of here, but there are some items worth getting and upgrading. To me, it's kind of disappointing that something that is truly repeatable content doesn't have a bit more to it though to make it more valuable. They are a ton of fun, I love running through them, and they go by so fast when you have a good group. The downside of this though is if you go in solo and queue up for it, you do get a lot of subpar undergeared players that can really make it not a fun experience. But that kind of happened with every sort of dungeon run that you do in any MMO. You also get rewarded Umbral Crystals from this to upgrade your gear, but it's significantly less than the Capture the Flag. The last Catacomb run I did took the whole 30 minutes and it gave me 15 Umbral Crystals compared to the 150 I get from CTF in 10 minutes. So hopefully a bit of balancing will fix this in the next few weeks to make those Catacombs more really worth their time. These were kind of buggy at times. Sometimes gates wouldn't open or NPCs wouldn't spawn and we get trapped into them, and then I'd have to go out and find a new one. Several times I got queued up and I joined a catacomb that the group had already extracted from, so I couldn't actually do anything. It's just it was kind of a weird experience, but overall I like the idea of it. I think it's fun and I can't wait to see them iterate off this more in the future. There's also the new raid for endgame called the Isle of Night that has 3 bosses. I haven't done that yet, but then there's still your usual stuff such as mutated expeditions, trials, and the PvP track you can take on. Overall, New World Aeternum Season 10 update brings a lot of desired new features into the fold, which is a huge step in the right direction for the game. And the majority of my dislike can be seen as pretty small in the grand scheme of things, because honestly, who cares about the main story quest when you could be out farming loot in catacombs? I am having a ton of fun playing right now and getting myself geared up and doing PvP, but I do question if this is enough to keep people coming back for the long run. Honestly, you can get through the content pretty quickly other than your certain lockouts, and the season pass does have some pretty awesome cosmetic armor that I will more than likely grind out for, but if they don't deliver even more endgame additions when season 11 comes and continues to iterate on what they already have and build off this momentum, then I'm sure we're going to see the player numbers begin to drop back down into its 8 to 10 concurrent players, which I really don't want to see. I want to see this MMO grow because they have done so much to it and it's come such a long way, and I think it's really worth people giving it a second chance.